windswept hill at Kitty Hawk, man sprouted wings. And if a soaring granite spire at Kitty Hawk is a memorial to the birth of the air age, so too is the soaring steel gantry around the spacecraft, mounted on an Atlas rocket at Cape Canaveral, the symbol of the dawn of the age of man's flight in space. December 17, 1903. On that eventful morning, who could have foretold what the conquest of the air would eventually mean? And 57 and a half years later, who among the millions watching and listening around the world could foretell the implication of free man's breakthrough into space? For the moment, it was enough that he was going. Astronaut Alan B. Shepard in a Mercury spacecraft called Freedom 7, May 5, 1961. Saw the Earth from a height of 100 feet. Alan Shepard saw it from 100 miles. And just as the first flights at Kitty Hawk proved that man could fly in the air, so did the first Redstone-powered flights in Mercury spacecraft prove that man could travel through space. Short ballistic flights downrange by Shepard and by astronaut Virgil Grissom were proof. But they were also only preludes to orbital flights around the Earth. February 20, 1962. Astronaut John Glenn in a Mercury spacecraft called Friendship 7. The mission? Orbit. Proved the spacecraft could sustain life in orbital flight. Proved that man could operate effectively in space. The voyage of Friendship 7 proved that man could operate as a pilot in space. But Friendship 7, too, was only a prelude, only the end of the beginning. Now it was time to put man to work in space. Astronaut Scott Carpenter would take the next step in a Mercury spacecraft he named Aurora 7. Carpenter would make new scientific observations from space for the benefit of all mankind. He would use Aurora 7 as a platform for science, for star observations, measurements of star brightness in space, using a specially designed photometer, measurements of the relative brightness of zodiacal light and other dim night phenomena, using a special instrument with crossed Polaroid filters. This instrument also permits direct viewing of the sun's disk and measurements of the polarization of the sun's corona. Measurements of light attenuation through the atmosphere, and more than a dozen other astronomical and physiological experiments. Experiments that cannot be performed on Earth. Carpenter would also make observations and photographs of the booster falling away to investigate the visual limitations associated with a receding object in space. Color perception by releasing a multicolored balloon, then observing and photographing the balloon to determine its color reflectivity and aerodynamic behavior, both of which have a bearing on visual aspects of future rendezvous missions in space. Photographs of the Earth's horizon to be taken through special filters for scientific study by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. Photographs of cloud masses over the Earth for study by Weather Bureau scientists. A special experiment carried on board the Aurora 7 would investigate the behavior of fluids under zero-G conditions. Throughout the flight, Carpenter was scheduled to conduct spacecraft maneuvers using the manual control system. Just as man went to work in the air after Kitty Hawk, so too now, man is going to work in space. May 24, 1962, 4:35 a.m. Astronaut Carpenter leaves the Earth by elevator. Atop the huge, powerful Atlas booster, Aurora 7 waits for its pilot. Preparations are almost complete. The countdown is progressing smoothly. The astronaut is ready. Downrange and around the world, the recovery forces are on station. 20 ships, 110 aircraft, 13,000 Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps personnel, all standing by for a lone American in a silver spacesuit. As a hazy sun comes up out of the Atlantic, Scott Carpenter is sealed inside the spacecraft. Only a few witnessed the pioneering flights at Kitty Hawk, but from the beaches near Cape Canaveral, across America, and throughout the nations of the Earth, millions watched and listened to the drama on Launch Complex 14.
Your attention, please. We are holding at T-minus 11 minutes. Flight Director, is this a weather hold? Affirmative. All my mark. We will pick up the count at T-minus 11 minutes. Mark, T-minus 11 minutes and counting.
In a few minutes, the great Atlas booster with its 360,000 pounds of thrust will lift the spacecraft up and out of the Earth's atmosphere and, guided by a miracle of space-age electronics, place it in the sky, leading to orbital flight. Precision radar will note every motion of the Atlas at every moment during the powered portion of the flight. The radar information will flow instantaneously into high-speed computers which have been pre-programmed with the correct trajectory data. The computer compares the actual data from the ascending Atlas with the pre-programmed flight plan and instantly and automatically transmits signals which gimbal the booster engines to steer the Atlas along the desired flight path.
T-minus 5 minutes. Mark, T-minus 5 minutes and counting. Your attention, please. All personnel, please clear the test stand area to the roadblock.
While the actual launch is controlled from a windowless concrete blockhouse near the launch pad, the Mercury Control Center, farther away, is the nerve center from which all elements of the mission are managed.
GE guidance, go. Mercury capsule, go. AMR telemetry,
T-minus 3 minutes.
Metering quality, go.
Stoney, switch to RF and conduct UHF check with CO. TM blockhouse, camera and tape recorder on. All Mercury stations, T-minus 2 and counting.
This is Stoney. How do you read, over? Aurora 7, reading Stoney. Loud and clear. How me? Roger, read your same.
Going 300, Hank. Roger.
Status check, missile power.
Go.
RF system.
RF record, go.
Propulsion.
Go.
AMR telemetry.
Go.
Telemetering quality.
Go. Tell me how we are.
Mercury capsule.
Go. T-minus 3 minutes.
T-minus 60 seconds.
Test conductor, Mercury is go.
TM, yours at 2 minutes. Minus 45.
Get a good final RC?
Minus 40. 40 seconds. Status check. Pressurization, go. Blocks tanking, go. Water system, go. Range operations, go. You're clear to launch. Mercury cap, go. All restart lights are correct. Range ready light is on.
26.
Eject Mercury umbilical.
Recharge light.
Clear. All evacuate.
Position light is out.
Roger,
Scott, scope
Mercury is go.
Scope is it.
All recorders to bad.
All evacuate light on.
T-minus 18 seconds and counting. Engine start.
15.
Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I feel the liftoff. The clock has started.
Roger.
Loud and clear, guys.
Roger, Aurora 7, stand by for the time hack.
Roger. Little bit of shaking. Pretty smooth.
3, 2, 1, mark.
Roger, the backup clock has started.
Roger, Aurora 7.
Clear blue sky. A little rough through max Q at 1 minute.
Roger, you're looking good from here.
I feel the pitch program starting over.
Roger.
Sky is getting quite black at 1:30. Fuel and oxygen is steady. Cabin pressure is leveling off at 6.2. 22 amps and the power is still good. Roger, there's Pico on time. And
Roger, understand Pico.
Roger, I self-staging. Do you confirm?
Aurora 7, we confirm staging.
Roger. GP got 6.3. The tower is way out. It's gone. The light is green.
Roger, Aurora 7.
4 minutes. Aurora 7 is go. Fuel and oxygen steady. Cabin holding 25 amps. Power is good.
Roger, Aurora 7.
Okay. Here is Pico. Deposit grade fired. I am weightless and starting the fly-by-wire turnaround. Ox damp is good.
Roger, you look good down here.
Periscope is out. And
Yeah, we go. There the 7 over capability.
Roger, sweet words.
Roger.
Okay, turnaround has stopped. I'm pitching down. I have the moon in the center of the window and the booster off to the right slightly.
Aurora 7 is in orbit. The men in the blockhouse have done their job. and the Atlas booster has done its job. Now, it's up to Mercury Control and the tracking network, the spacecraft, and the astronaut. 99 miles high over the Atlantic, traveling at more than 17,000 miles an hour, Scott Carpenter goes to work. One of his first jobs was observing and photographing the burned-out Atlas as it trailed him into orbit. At this time, he discovered that by means of his attitude control system, he could successfully track and orient his spacecraft in relation to the trailing booster. This information will be useful in planning future orbital rendezvous missions. Approaching Africa, radio contact is made with the Mercury tracking station at Kano, Nigeria.
At 29:43, the first time I was able to get horizon pictures with MIT film, set at f8 and 1/25. A picture to the south, into the sun, directly down my flight path is number 2.
As the Aurora 7 sped across Africa into the sunset, the astronaut began his continuing study of the space environment. The haze layer noted on the prior flight of Freedom 7 was now measured for light wave frequency, breadth, and width. Star observations were made for occlusion and intensity. Venus was clearly observed low on the horizon. Experiments were conducted on drifting flight, as well as the effects of spacecraft control by body movement and orientation with the darkened Earth. Body movement and proprioceptive tests were conducted during prolonged weightlessness. Observations were periodically made of the liquid behavior experiment. These observations confirmed suspected surface tension effects under the weightless condition. And always the endless task of communication with the Mercury tracking station. Mouchet and Woomera, Australia.
Hello, Mouchet Capcom, Aurora 7 loud and clear on me.
Loud and clear also. What's your status?
Canton Island in the dark Pacific. Out of the night and into a sunrise. Spectacular as only sunrises seen from space can be. And at sunrise, the first of the space particles.
I have some more of the white particles in view below the capsule. They look exactly like snowflakes to me.
It was later, on the third orbit, that Scott Carpenter identified the mysterious particles as frost, dislodged from the exterior of the spacecraft. Then, contact with the tracking station at Guaymas, Mexico.
Will you pass on this message for me, Gordo, to all the troops at Guaymas? Hola, amigos. Felicitaciones a México y especialmente a mis amigos de Guaymas. Desde el espacio exterior, su país está cubierto con nubes. Se me muy pelo. Aquí el tiempo está muy bueno. Buena suerte desde Aurora 7.
Roger. Muchas gracias, amigo.
Okay.
It takes Aurora 7 just 8 minutes to cross America from the Pacific to the Atlantic. And over the homeland, repeat the endless checks on blood pressure, suit temperature, control mode, fuel consumption, time. And now, approaching Bermuda, the balloon experiment.
Understand. Balloon is out, isn't it?
That is Roger.
Aurora 7, did the balloon inflate?
The balloon is partially inflated. I would say we have about a 1 cycle per minute oscillation. It's both in pitch and yaw.
After release, tensiometer measurements and observations against the blackness of space. Of the 4 colors, only orange and silver seemed clearly visible. Then, visibility studies and studies of depth perception in space. Experiments with food consumption and handling. Man proving he can work in space. Scott Carpenter working through the first and second orbits, swinging in a long arc across Africa, out over the Indian Ocean where a Mercury tracking ship is stationed.
Go ahead, Indian Capcom.
Medical monitor says that we are reading your respiration. I believe this is almost the first time it's come across.
That's very good. I guarantee I'm breathing. The stars are occluded as the they pass through this haze layer, I have a good set of stars to watch going through at this time. I'll try and get some photometer readings.
I understand you go for orbit 3.
Roger, I am go for orbit 3.
On the third orbit, Aurora 7 approaches the California coast and the critical retrofire maneuver. But now, the fuel supply is very short.
Gyros are off.
Right, you have to use attitude bypass, man, and manual override.
Roger.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, fire 1, fire 2, and fire 3. I had to punch off manually.
Aurora 7 faces one more obstacle as it speeds across the United States. As the spacecraft encounters the atmosphere, its speed and energy are translated into heat through friction. 3,600-degree temperatures 3 feet from the astronaut's back. An ablative heat shield dissipates the heat, but the enormous temperatures create a layer of ionized air around the spacecraft, which blocks communications.
Roger.
Roger, we show you still have so many fuel left.
Yes, but I can't get anything out of it.
In Mercury control, every second seems an hour as the communications blackout begins. But Scott Carpenter continued to record his observations on a tape recorder in the spacecraft.
I hope we have enough fuel. I get the orange glow at this time. Tunnel fuel still reads 1.4. We're at 6.5 Gs.
Right, 7, keep Capcom, over. Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over.
Orange glow has disappeared now. We're off peak G. Cape the radiant.
Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over. Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over.
Aurora Capcom, he's pretty far downrange.
Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over.
Trajectory data flowing through the high-speed computers at the Goddard Space Flight Center provide a landing point prediction. Aurora 7 will land some 250 miles farther downrange than anticipated. Recovery forces order flank speed toward the predicted landing area. Scramble all search and rescue aircraft aloft. Alert para-rescue personnel and all medical and emergency teams.
Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over. Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over.
Standing by for the main chute at 10. And I see the main is out and reefed. And it looks good to me. Does anybody read Aurora 7, over? Roger, understand. I'm reading.
In the recovery room at Cape Canaveral, the predicted landing point is charted, checked, and rechecked. Predicted time to recovery, 1 hour. The long wait begins. Planes of the task force converge on the landing area.
Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over. Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over. Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over.
Then, contact with the Aurora 7. The P-2V aircraft receives a Sarah beacon signal from the spacecraft. Follow the beacon to Aurora 7.
Flight network. Go ahead. Source through Antigua reports they see life raft with Carpenter inside.
Aurora 7 has ended, but the scientific evaluation has only begun. After a short rest and a post-flight physical examination aboard the Intrepid, astronaut Carpenter is flown to Grand Turk Island for a thorough debriefing. Meanwhile, the destroyer Pierce fishes Aurora 7 from the sea for return to Cape Canaveral, where it too will be subjected to a complete post-flight examination. Debriefing at Grand Turk requires 2 days, during which Aurora 7's pilot records his observations and suggestions and answers hundreds of questions from Mercury scientists and engineers. This information will be important in planning increasingly complex flights for the future. Experience from each flight is pyramided, building America's road into space scientifically, step by step. All the sciences, from medicine to meteorology, from astronomy to astrophysics, were the beneficiaries of the flight of Aurora 7. Man has gone to work in space for the advancement of knowledge and the cause of freedom. Aurora 7 was a triumph of science and human courage, and the nation is grateful.